The very river that France used to colonize West Africa is about to become the weapon that breaks its grip on the Sahel. And nobody in the West saw it coming. In late January 2026, four African nations quietly gathered in Nouakchott, Mauritania. No Western government was invited. No Western money was on the table. And they approved a project that could reshape the entire power balance in West Africa. A 905-kilometer waterway from the Atlantic coast of Senegal straight into the heart of Mali. A direct lifeline to the ocean for a landlocked nation that the world tried to isolate. Now here's what makes this explosive. The same Senegal river that French colonial ships sailed in the 1500s to extract slaves and gold is now being reclaimed by Africans for Africans. And the man opening the door is Senegal's President Bassirou Diomaye Faye, the former prisoner turned president who kicked out every French soldier from Senegalese soil and is now building backdoor ties with Mali's revolutionary leader, Assimi Goïta. The same ties that bypass ECOWAS entirely. But it gets deeper. Mali can't even pay its existing energy bills to the same organization managing these projects. Terrorists blockaded the exact region where this corridor ends. And neither Mali nor Senegal has held a single press conference about it. So why the silence? In this episode, we're diving deep into how a colonial-era river became Africa's newest instrument of sovereignty, how one president's double game is outmaneuvering the entire Western playbook in the Sahel, and why France, the EU, and the United States are watching this unfold with absolute dread. In late January 2026, ministers from West African nations gathered in Nouakchott, Mauritania, and approved a project that could reshape the entire power balance in the Sahel. No Western government was invited. No Western money was on the table. And the decision they made is about to give a landlocked military-run nation its first ever direct route to the Atlantic Ocean. The project is the Senegal River Navigation Corridor, a waterway stretching 905 kilometers from Ambibed in Mali's Kayes region to St. Louis in Senegal's Atlantic coast. The Organization for the Development of the Senegal River, which is the OMVS, approved the first phase during its 78th ordinary session on 30th and 31st January 2026. SOGINAV, the body created to manage river navigation, was given the green light to begin dredging, channel marking, and the rehabilitation of landing sites. A high-value formation and foundation stone ceremony is scheduled for April 2026. The project ties together the OMVS member states, which is Mali, Senegal, and Mauritania, with Guinea, which became a member in 2006, but suspended its participation in July 2023 over disputes about representation and infrastructure priorities, though its delegation attended the January 2026 session. Now, this is not just about moving goods on water. This is about a landlocked country breaking free from geographic strongholds and doing it through an African-led institutional framework. That distinction alone is what makes this project significant. For ordinary Malians, farmers in Kayes, gold traders in Bamako, cotton producers across the south, this corridor means that their goods could reach global markets without being held ransom at someone else's border crossing. But here is the question nobody is asking out loud. Why now? Why did Senegal, once France's closest ally in West Africa, suddenly decide to open the door for Mali? The answer starts with one man. In March 2024, a 44-year-old former tax inspector walked out of detention and into the presidency of Senegal. His name is Bassirou Diomaye Faye. And within his first year in office, he did something no Senegalese president had done since independence in 1960. Faye won the presidency in a first-round victory with 54.28% of the vote on 24 March 2024, running on a platform of sovereignty. Pan-African solidarity, and a clean break from the Macky Sall era. He had been released from prison just 10 days before the election, on 14th March, following the enactment of an amnesty law by outgoing President Sall. He immediately appointed Ousmane Sonko, his political mentor and the figure who galvanized Senegal's youth movement, as prime minister. And then came the move that alarmed Paris. Faye directed that France withdraw all military forces from Senegal by the end of 2025, and France complied. On 17 July 2025, France formally hand-backed Camp Guy, its largest base in the country, and its airfield at Dakar Airport, ending 65 years of permanent French military presence in Senegal. Around 350 French soldiers departed. But here is what made this different and even more devastating for Paris. Unlike Mali, Burkina Faso and Niger, where French troops were expelled by revolutionary leaders, Senegal's withdrawal was orderly, democratic, and diplomatic. That made it even more significant because the West could not dismiss Faye as a dictator. He was democratically elected, and he continued to express willingness to cooperate with France on other terms. He just did not want foreign boots on Senegalese soil anymore. Now, when a democratically elected president tells you to leave and the whole country agrees, you have no talking point left. With France gone and Senegal charting its own course, Faye turned his attention eastward, towards a neighbor most of the world had written off. Mali is one of the largest countries in West Africa and one of the most geographically trapped. No coastline, no direct sea routes. Every container of gold, cotton, and agricultural goods that leaves Mali has to pass through someone else's territory, on someone else's road, under someone else's terms. For decades, Mali's economy has been constrained by its landlocked geography. Exporters relied on expensive, unpredictable road routes through coastal neighbors, which are Senegal, Côte d'Ivoire, and Benin, paying transit fees, dealing with border delays, and absorbing logistics costs that made Malian products uncompetitive on global markets. When ECOWAS imposed sanctions following the August 2020 and May 2021 revolutionary transition, the stronghold tightened. Trade routes were disrupted. Borders were threatened with closure. And for families in Bamako and Kayes, the price of basic imports surged. Not because goods were scarce globally, but because every route to the sea ran through a neighbor willing to use access as a weapon. Then Mali made its move. On 29 January 2025, Mali, along with Burkina Faso and Niger, formally withdrew from ECOWAS after providing the required 1-year notice. That three nations, all under revolutionary governments, had already formed the Alliance of Sahel States on 16 September 2023 through the Liptako-Goma Charter, and were building their own security coalition with plans for a 5,000-strong joint military force. They expelled French troops, cut ties with EU military missions, and deepened military cooperation with Russia through the African Corps and the successor to the Wagner Group. But sovereignty means nothing if you cannot move your own goods to markets. Mali needed the sea and the Senegal River, a 905-kilometer waterway that has been used for trade since well before European contact, was sitting right there, waiting to be reopened. The river had the potential. The political will was building, but making this corridor work required something unprecedented, which is genuine cooperation between a democratically elected Pan-Africanist and a revolutionary leader. And that is exactly what started happening. On the 12th of August 2024, Senegal's Prime Minister, Ousmane Sonko, landed in Bamako for a meeting with Colonel Assimi Goïta, the head of Mali's transitional government. It was the first high-level signal that something new was brewing between these two neighbors. After Sonko's visit, the contacts kept coming. And on 30th May 2024, Faye himself had traveled to Bamako for a face-to-face with the Malian leader. A visit where the Dakar-Bamako trade corridor was at the center of discussions. On 17 October 2024, Professor Abdoulaye Batili, special envoy of President Faye, was received by Goïta in Bamako. In February 2025, Senegalese Defense Minister General Birame Diop visited Bamako to deepen military cooperation. Throughout this period, the OMVS framework facilitated ongoing technical coordination among member states. Visit after visit, minister after minister. This was not photo opportunity diplomacy. This was a relationship being built brick by brick. The numbers tell the story. Mali is Senegal's largest African trading partner, accounting for 50.5% of Senegal's exports to Africa, with Senegal's total exports to Africa estimated about 4.5 billion CFA francs in 2022. That is not charity, that is cold, hard economic self-interest. When Mali thrives, Senegal's economy benefits directly. Opening the river is not generosity, it is smart economics. In February 2025, the two countries launched joint military patrols along their shared border near the Boli. In response to the growing terrorist threat from GNM and Al-Qaeda affiliates, and in September 2024, bipartite land and river patrols were conducted with Mauritania in the Arondou area. This was not just diplomacy, it was a full-spectrum partnership covering security, trade, and infrastructure. Faye even raised the question of ECOWAS membership with Goïta, later saying the Malian leader was not totally inflexible on the matter. The relationship was pragmatic, not ideological, but it was exactly the kind of South-South cooperation that makes Western capitals uneasy because it works without them. But Senegal and Mali were not the only ones trying to break the Sahel's geographic isolation. To the north, another country was making its own play for influence. On 28 April 2025, the foreign ministers of Mali, Burkina Faso, and Niger were received by King Mohammed VI of Morocco at the Royal Palace in Rabat and publicly endorsed his initiative to give landlocked Sahel states access to the Atlantic Ocean through Moroccan ports. Morocco's Atlantic Initiative, first announced in November 2023, offered the Alliance of Sahel State Nations an alternative trade route, which is access to global markets through Moroccan infrastructure, bypassing ECOWAS coastal states entirely. Mali's Foreign Minister Abdoulaye Diop said the initiative was aimed at diversifying their access to the sea. Morocco had been investing heavily in West Africa's banking, agriculture, and telecommunications for years, and this was the next logical step. Infrastructure diplomacy designed to deepen its regional influence. At the same time, Morocco was building the Dakhila Atlantic port in Western Sahara. But here is where the Senegal River project changes the calculation entirely. Morocco's route is longer. It requires massive road infrastructure investments and runs through diplomatically complicated territory, especially given the Algeria-Morocco rivalry. The Senegal River corridor, by contrast, is shorter, uses existing waterway geography, involves countries that already share the river basin through the OMVS, and could reduce logistics costs by up to 60% according to projections. So while Morocco was offering a geopolitical play, Senegal was offering a practical one. Both routes reduce Western leverage over the Sahel. Both undermine ECOWAS's ability to use trade access as a weapon against nations that refuses to fall in line. And both signal something the West does not want to hear, which is Africa's landlocked nations are done being held hostage by geography and foreign interests. The Sahel is building exits, multiple exits, and every new route is a door that somebody else can no longer lock. With two competing routes to the sea now on the table, the question is not just about trade. It's about who shapes Africa's economic corridors. And that is a question that reveals a pattern going back decades. In late 2024, Senegal and Côte d'Ivoire, two of France's most historically loyal allies in West Africa, both announced the withdrawal of French military forces from their soil. Senegal made the announcement in November, and Côte d'Ivoire followed on 31st December 2024. This was not a coincidence. That was a trend. France's military footprint in West Africa and Central Africa has effectively collapsed. After being expelled from Mali in November 2022, Burkina Faso in February 2023, and Niger in December 2023, Paris watched its last remaining camps in Senegal close in July 2025. Chad terminated its defense cooperation agreement with France on 28 November 2024, and French troops completed their withdrawal by 30 January 2025. France now retains permanent military bases in Africa, only in Djibouti, with approximately 1,500 troops, and Gabon with around 350. Meanwhile, the United States lost its foothold too. Niger terminated its military cooperation agreement with Washington, forcing the closure of Air Base 201, the $110 million drone facility in Agadez. With the withdrawal completed on 5th August 2024, President Trump's 20th January 2025 executive order pausing all U.S. foreign development aid has fueled further mistrust across the continent. Russia, through the African Corps and the reorganized successor to the Wagner Group, has expanded its presence in Mali, Burkina Faso, and Niger, deploying military personnel, supplying equipment, and running influence operations. The Senegal River project fits into this broader picture. It is a piece of infrastructure that African nations are building through their own institution. No Western contractor at the helm. No conditionality attached. No strings. It is sovereignty in concrete form. And that is exactly what makes these Western policymakers uncomfortable. But the bigger question is not about what the West has lost. It is about what Africa is about to gain, and whether this river corridor could become a blueprint for something much bigger. When the foundation stone is laid in April 2026, it will not just mark the beginning of a construction project. It will mark the moment African nations decided that geography would no longer be a prison. The Senegal River Navigation Corridor from St. Louis to Ambidedi is designed to include the construction of 2 ports, a fluvial maritime port in St. Louis and an inland river port at Ambidedi, plus 7 wharfs and 9 stopovers along the route. Once this is operational, it could transform the competitiveness of Malian gold, cotton, and agricultural exports on global markets, with projected logistics cost reductions of up to 60%. Now, think about what that means for real people. A cotton farmer in the Kayes region who currently loses a significant share of his earnings to trucking costs and border fees could suddenly compete on global markets. A gold exporter in Bamako who has been paying inflated transit charges through Abidjan could ship directly through St. Louis and a fraction of the costs. This corridor does not just move goods, it moves livelihoods. The project is managed under the OMVS, a real model of cross-border cooperation established in 1972 that has survived political upheavals, revolutionary transitions, and regional sanctions. The fact that it is still standing and now expanding tells you something about African institutions that are built by Africans for African purposes. The project brings together the Senegal River Basin states, demonstrating that African nations can build transformative infrastructure through their own frameworks. It also aligns with the Alliance of Sahel States border strategy to secure new trade routes and reduce reliance on constant ECOWAS states. And there are signs that this spirit of cooperation is spreading. On 19 January 2026, a separate $7 million cross-border water management project was launched across the Senegal-Mali-Mauritania border zone, targeting 686,000 beneficiaries. The river is becoming more than a trade route. It is becoming a corridor of cooperation, resilience, and self-determination. If this works, every landlocked African nation will be watching, and they will be asking the same question. Why can't we do the same? The Sahel is done waiting for permission. The river is flowing, and this time it flows towards freedom. This is Frontline Africa. If this kind of unfiltered Africa First analysis resonates with you, make sure you're subscribed. Hit the notification bell so you don't miss the next story. And drop your thoughts in the comments. I want to hear what you think. My name is P. Solomon, and I'll see you in the next one.